Hi, friends. Welcome back to Universal Talks. Today, I'm joined by Soma ARah, a Pleiadian Starseed, channel, and spiritual teacher with a powerful mission here on Earth. Soma has been receiving transmissions and downloads from the Pleiadians since childhood, experienced a life-altering out-of-body encounter with Jesus at 12, and has dedicated her life to helping humanity raise its frequency during this ascension period. And this is actually like our first time having a chat, so I'm just as excited as all of you are to dive in and explore her story, hear her experiences, and just the wisdom that she brings forward. So, Soma, hi, welcome. How are you?
Hello, Kenneth. I'm delighted to be here and finally connecting with you on a live, um,
Yes, yeah,
on an interview. Um,
yes.
and it's the main way that I really connect in with people now is on interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a live or it's a recorded. Yeah, it's interesting times, isn't it?
It is, because people are just they're we're nosy by human nature. We're nosy people. So like it's just whenever people get like a like a fly on the wall with our conversations, people just love that and they can do it while they're working or just cleaning the house or doing anything like podcast or I never thought I would be a podcaster, but here I am. And it's such a blessing. It's so fun. And then just the connections that we were making are ugh, so heartwarming. It's so fun.
I know it really is.
Hmm.
And I had it not been for COVID, I never would have picked up a microphone. And I don't know if you're the same. I'm kind of feeling you are.
Yeah.
But there's so many people at that time. There was just thousands of people that literally that picked up microphones and turned on their cameras and started speaking out and
Yeah.
saying, this is not okay. This,
Yes.
this is not, we do not consent.
Yep.
It was kind of like an uprising of people.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I would never have picked up. I would never have done it,
I
you know?
agree. Yeah. I was the same because it was during like the lockdown and everything. It's just you felt so closed off. And so because of that, that bred this awakening in people to connect more. And so I've always said like us light workers have infiltrated social media in a way that they just were not expecting, like at all. So yeah, it's an honor to be here with you and connecting. 'Cause I'm pretty sure, like we said before the recording, I think it was 2020 when we actually connected on media. So it's yeah, it was a very shifty year, very shifty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been a wild ride ever
Oh my
since.
gosh, yes. It really has been. Like it's been like 2 decades in the past 4 or 5 years. Whew, it's a
Yeah.
whirlwind.
It's gone so quickly. And I remember being in my local supermarket. I think I'll never forget that time, where they had these silly, um, they'd drawn lines on the floor
Oh yeah.
and the arrows
Yep.
and the the plastic sheets, the plastic sheets over the cashier,
Yeah, like the
you know,
sneeze guards. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then if you bent around it, you could
Right.
you could give money, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yes.
it wouldn't be
Because
there. So
because Corona isn't smart enough to like go around.
of course,
Anyways, anyways, I am curious. Let's start with your awakening journey because you've shared that trauma played a big role in unlocking your connection to the Pleiadians. So I'd love for you to just take us back. What were some of the first experiences like, and when did you realize that this connection was part of your soul's mission?
wow. Okay.
I know it's a big
Um,
one.
it's a big one. It's a great questions. No one's ever quite worded it in that way. Um, so my first conscious memory now, which I'd forgotten for a number of years, was when I was 8, and um, I had a man laying on top of me, and I was a skinny little thing. I was underfed, undernourished, and he was really big. He was very heavy. He was an alcoholic. Um, and I couldn't breathe to the point I left my body.
Mm.
And I connected in with the Pleiadians. I didn't know who they were at the time. I had no idea. I was just in shock, in trauma. I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
I was quite an innocent child, and so I was only 8, and I wasn't really aware of sex, or the genitalia, or
Yeah.
wasn't aware of that at all. Um, Not until a couple of years later, I began to be a bit more aware. Um, but I left my body and connected in with these beings, who are the Pleiadians. I now know were
Hmm.
the Pleiadians, and um, then I came back into my body. It only lasted a few minutes,
Okay.
and they had a very short message, and it went something like, "Don't worry." And they were very calming, very, very soothing, very calming, very loving, very still. There was a stillness with them that was, everything's going to be okay,
Yeah.
kind of stillness that
Yeah.
was very strong. I remember that the peaceful feeling with them was it to the extreme, that they wanted to ensure that that filtered into me, that sense of peace
Hmm.
and tranquility, and that it doesn't, no matter what happened in the next few minutes, I was going to be okay. And that really was, they they gave that to me without words.
Yeah.
That was a feeling they gave very strongly. And they said, "Don't worry, this will only last a few seconds or a few minutes." And it didn't last very long at all. And then my brother came in. Um, and it's quite strange because I could see him in my mind's eye in the corridor. We had a long hallway in the center of the flat, and then rooms came off that.
Okay.
And it was quite long, and I could see him walking along, and I could see him coming into the room, into my bedroom at the end of the corridor, before he got there. So I was observing from above,
Yeah.
um, watching him come in, and then he came in, and then I came back into my body, and then my brother dragged Bill off me, and then my mum came in and started to, she wasn't aware of what had happened previously before she entered the room, with
Yeah.
what she was aware of what Bill had done, who was her boyfriend. And then, so of course well, I say of course, I don't know, but she started to hit my brother, because all she could see was my brother was hitting this, her boyfriend.
Yeah.
So then she started to hit my brother because she didn't know what had happened previously to that. And then things didn't escalate, thank God. Things calmed down. And um, so, yeah, my whole childhood, there was a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, but
Yeah.
I do take a big positive from it. So then there was another, when I was 12, I'd been abused again and again, from the ages of when I was in the cot in Namibia, in South Africa, Namibia, um, and which is close, you know. Um, so yeah, from the time I was in the cot up until the age of 13, I think it was, I was sexually abused and raped by my cousin. And then from the age of 13 to 16, there wasn't really any sexual or abuse or rape. Um, but I did have an out of body experience when I was 12, where the same thing happened. I left my body. Um, I decided I wanted out. I didn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And I decided on taking tablets. So I lay on my mattress on the floor, and um, I was sobbing my eyes out, and deciding on taking tablets because I was just done. I was just done, Kenneth. I didn't want to be here, like at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a cry for help. It wasn't any of that. But I left my body. And because of the experience, I'll never forget the layout of the room. So there was the mattress on the left-hand side of the wall, and then there was the door on the over kind of on the door on the wall going across, and then there was another wall, and then on this back wall here there were two windows,
Mhm.
and we were in a high-rise block of 20 floors,
Okay.
and the lift didn't often work. The lift rarely worked. um, so I always remember the some of the African ladies on the top on the 20th floor with kids. It was a very poverty stricken area.
Mhm.
They would have to walk up the 20 flights with shopping and kids and
Oh, jeez.
prams or buggies
Yeah.
and like just I remember seeing them sometimes and going to help them. But anyway, sorry, kind of got sidetracked there.
It's all right. Painting a picture.
So I left my body, and I was above the door on the right corner of the ceiling, looking down on my body, and um, Jesus came to me, and I wasn't just upset; I was distraught. I was sobbing, retching, and snotty. And, it wasn't a pretty picture. And so I left my body, and Jesus came to me, and I recognized him because my mum was Catholic. She's passed away now, but she was Catholic. So there were an Irish Catholic. So there was a lot of, you know, tradition of that in our home. So I recognized him because of that, I guess.
Hmm.
Although he did look slightly different, darker skin.
Right.
Um, and he came to me, and I was with him for about 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours at least. And he took me on a very long journey. And he showed me my life and why things at that age and why things were happening and karma and what was going on. And it really showed me a lot of my stuff and what was going on, really explaining it to me. Um, and then when he understood that I got it, that I understood his message for me personally, then he moved on to the bigger picture of humanity and what is or what was going on at the time.
Hmm.
And not even at the time, it was big, it was a bigger picture than that. He was showing me, lessons and natural laws about consciousness and energy and how things work, on an energetic and conscious level.
Wow.
And then when I came back into my body, um, so I was gone about 3 or 4 hours. When I came back, I was totally blissful. Just I'd gone from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
And that's how I always knew it was a real experience, because those that scale of emotion doesn't happen without something profound happening,
Mm.
um, or um, or taking something, whether
Right.
it's um, whether it's pharmaceutical or whether it's some kind of hallucinogenics or something like that.
Right.
And I hadn't done that. So at that age, so I always knew it was real because of that. And I never spoke to anyone about it. I never told anyone,
Oh, wow.
not until I think it was 2004. I was living on Holy Island. Um, and that would have happened back when I was 12. So, and I was born in 74. So it was back in the 80s that would have happened. So that
Wow.
was a good 20 years that I didn't tell
Yeah.
anyone.
That's
But when
incredible.
I came back, I was just so blissful for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then that gradually ebbed away. And I've realized over the years that it wasn't just an out of body experience, but it must have been a Kundalini awakening
Mm.
of some kind, because I was just blissful, like nothing mattered.
Right.
And yet here I was, still in the same house, the same people, family around me, the same teachers, the same school, the same, nothing had changed
Right.
except I had changed. So
Exactly.
everything was different for me. I came back with a completely different everything, a different understanding, a different perspective, a different, I was more aware, I was more conscious, I was more awake, I was more expansive.
Mm. Hmm. Wow. Wow. So you mentioned that you recognized Jesus just through your religion. What did you think, or who did you think the Pleiadians were then when you visited them? Did you just think they were angels or aliens or what?
So well, I believed they were my guides.
Okay.
Um, just after that experience, that experience really changed everything for me.
I'm sure.
I it did, it really did. It was such a major event in my life. I stopped going to school after that. I began meditating at home. I didn't know what it was called. I just would sit on my mattress cross-legged and just zone out. It brought me peace, it brought me tranquility. It brought me an escapism
Mm.
from what was going on at home with an alcoholic mother and violence and abuse and addiction and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And being bullied at school as well when I was at primary school.
Yeah.
So after that experience, I just, I didn't want to know anything from the school. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to kind of isolate in my room and read and meditate. So I began meditating in that way. And then I would go to the local library every day and just get all the books out I could, on everything, on all the esoteric subjects. So I was reading Edgar Casey and um, uh, Doris Stokes, who was a famous medium in the UK.
Okay.
Um, and I was reading those types of books. And that was from the age of 12 till 16 when I left home on my 16th birthday. I couldn't wait to get out there. And I've heard someone else say that recently as well. Actually, Greg Braden said that the other day on an interview. I think he was 14 when he left
Oh, wow.
because he just couldn't wait to leave. Similar circumstances.
Yeah.
Um, so, and he was 14, which would have been illegal. He was saying that on the interview. Um, but of course, it was back in the day when, there wasn't the rules and regulations
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that were being adhered to anyway. So, and I did try to go to secondary school, but the Pleiadians put a wall of energy up in front of me. So I actually couldn't physically enter. And I didn't know it was the Pleiadians. I really didn't. I just thought they were my guides.
Okay.
But I always had that from being in the cot. Around that time, I was always connected to my guides and spirit. My granddad when I was 9, and we lived in Ireland for a number of years when we left South Africa or Namibia. And I would be in the garden in Ireland, in rural Ireland, playing with nature spirits and fairies and elves and tree spirits. And I just love nature. I always have. It's my way to connect to Mother Earth. And
Mm.
so I was one of those weird little kids, and very connected to nature and spirit and spirit guides. And I had a lot of downloads from the age of, I would say, 8. I was going to say 12, but it probably was 8. That initial conscious memory. I'm sure there's
Oh,
memories.
oh yeah. Wow. So during like all of this, you didn't share with your mom or your brother, or did you have anyone to talk to about any of this?
I didn't want to. I felt like I was on a different planet.
Yeah.
Um, so I really, yeah, I did. There was a couple of years when I was in primary school. I think from around the age of 7 till 11, perhaps, where it was, no, it would have been 7 till about 9, where I would talk about things and what I was seeing, and people started to look at me. And spirit stepped in at that point, and thank God they did, because they told me you have to stop talking now.
Yeah.
People will people are talking,
Yeah.
um, and that they will lock you up. So I remember the day actually. I was talking one day about Jesus, and this was before my out of body experience with him.
Hmm.
And I was at school, and I was talking about consciousness and God and Jesus, and even the teachers were starting to look at me. And um, so when I was walking home that day, I remember Spirit stepping in and saying, "You need to stop talking now because they will start taking action."
Yeah.
And I remember being in. Sometimes I would be in my secondary school because there were days I did go. Um, I think I went for about 2 weeks in a whole year. Um, and I remember very vividly looking at the other kids and seeing their auras, and also the teachers, and energy. And so I was one of those kids. And when my mum emigrated from, she originally she was Irish, and then she emigrated to South Africa, and she moved around Africa a lot. So I was born in Namibia. And then when she separated from her first husband, who was very extremely violent with her, she moved back to Ireland, and we lived with my granny for a while. And um and then we moved to Dublin for a while. And my mum knew that this was the first experience of me in Dublin. And yet here I was, this little kid. I must have been maybe 7, I think, or 5, 6 or 7. And I was telling her about the road names and what was around the corner and what was down the road and the buildings and the street names. And she just kind of looked at me because she knew I couldn't read or write. I was too young. Um, and I was never a quick learner. So I never picked up, and I'm dyslexic as well. So I never really picked up. I was a late reader. Um, Probably around 10, or no, I think it was after that, maybe 10 or 11, I started to read,
Okay.
and write. But she knew that I didn't, physically know. I couldn't read or write. But yeah, here I was telling her, because I had memories of living in Dublin in a previous lifetime as a man. So I'd be telling her about this, and then she never knew what to make of me, Kenneth.
I was gonna say, what was her reaction?
She never knew what to make of me.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. That's and so how did you get away with not going to school at such a young age? What did they have to say about that?
I just didn't go. I didn't go. Well, actually, that's not strictly true, because there were times, I think maybe 4 times, where I did. I got up, got dressed, and it wasn't like a 5-minute walk down the road. This was 2 bus journeys, and it was an hour, half an hour on each bus. Um, and I could never get my mum to give me the bus money. I don't know what she was thinking, but it was a real effort. I had to beg her to give me the bus money to go to school. Um,
Wow.
and so eventually she would, it would take an hour or something of me begging her to do that. So eventually she would. Um, and I'd had this awful, uniform. It was a red jumper, bright red
Ooh.
um jumper and a black skirt, I think it was. Yeah, it was skirts, black skirt. And it was an all-girls school in Stamford Hill called Skinner's Company School for Girls. And it was two buses, so half an hour each. So it was
Yeah.
a big journey, you know.
Yeah.
And so I would get there, and there was this wall of energy in front of the school gates that held me in this vortex where I just couldn't move.
Hmm.
And I didn't know at the time what this energy was. I was
Yeah.
more worried about what people would think that were watching me, because people would be walking by, looking at me, looking up at this gate, and I'd be aware of all this energy around me, and I just couldn't move, and I was held in this vortex of energy. And the vortex of energy around me was separate to the wall of energy in front of me.
Yeah.
Um, and the Pleiadians would be talking to me, and I was more worried what people walking by would be thinking. Um, so that happened about 3 or 4 times, and in the end, I got fed up of doing that, because the journey, and then the begging her for money, and which was only a couple of, like, it was £1, I think, at the time. So it would have been £2 or £3. So it wasn't very much.
Right.
Um, so I just, I was a very strong, determined little kid. Like, people would say things to me, and I would just go off and do the total opposite. Um, which is kind of, like, now looking back, it's funny.
It
But
is.
I think at the time, my family, I gave them a really hard time.
Sounds like it.
Um, I did. I did. I would not. So I was born with a very strong sense of determination, and I would not listen to anyone. I would not back down.
Mhm.
It was my way, or it was no way.
Yeah.
And funny, but I don't know why I'm bringing Greg Braden up, but he was saying the same thing. I think that's why I'm mentioning it, because he was born with that warrior type spirit, and he was saying it,
Mhm.
and it um was sorry, I'm kind of going off there, but
No, I resonate
um,
with that too. I'd say a lot of us star seeds, light workers, whatever you want to call it, we have that innate, just like resistance towards like authoritative type controlling situations. We're just like, No, nope, I don't think so. But like in a loving way, not like in a rebellious, angry way. It's just like no, this isn't right. So I see what you're saying for sure. I get it. And I love Greg Braden too. So you can bring him up all the time. I love all of his work. He's an amazing person. He's like on the top of my bucket list to have on the podcast, actually. That'd be amazing. Yeah.
yes,
So like when
yeah.
you communicated at that time before you actually knew they were the Pleiadians, like what was that communication? Was it just like through the just you could hear them? Did you actually see them? Was it just a knowing? What clair were you using? I'm curious.
I mostly could hear them. It was
Okay.
mostly telepathic, but I was aware of them more in the distance. Well, that's not even true, because I could hear them,
Hmm.
like, talking to me, and I always had a sense of them being here on my right hand side.
Okay.
And sometimes Ashtar is normally behind me, um, th- but they're always within my vicinity.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I do kind of see them at a distance, but in my mind's eye.
Okay.
That would be clairvoyance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember one incident where I was really conscious of them, and I was 12, and I think it must have been after the out of body experience with Jesus,
Hmm.
because I was in a blissful space. And I walked into the lounge, and my mum was watching the TV. She was watching the news, and the Sphinx was on the news. They were talking about Egypt and the Sphinx. Um, And I was held in this vortex of energy again, and I was in the doorway of the lounge. The lounge was quite large. We had quite a large flat back in the day, even though it was in a area full of poverty. It was a large flat, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and um, so the lounge was very large. So the TV was way over in the corner, and the Sphinx was on the news, and I was held in this vortex of energy in the doorway, and I was getting this download of information, and I could see or sense someone on my right, but it came from the right, um, and they were showing me in my mind's eye. I could see the Sphinx as well, and they were saying that the Sphinx originally had a lion's head, and that going down as you look head on, I think it's the right paw. I was seeing steps going down and an area or a space or a room that was secret. And they were showing me that there was information or important documents or something important in this room. And then I could see in between the paws in the center, there was like a door or an entrance there that I think has been blocked up now. And um, yeah, and that happened when I was 12. I never told anyone. I never told anyone.
Hmm.
I think when they said to me, "You have to stop talking now,
Yeah.
because things are getting serious. You're getting older, and you need to be quiet if you want
Hmm.
to continue. Otherwise, you're going to go down this very different pathway where you'll be locked up."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Especially in
I,
those times, because even I had a similar experience, but I was probably more like middle school age, so probably not too much older than where you were, where I had like the download or the knowing of like, okay, stop sharing everything that you're sharing because you're starting to scare people. Like the friends were starting to get old enough to realize like, hey, this isn't a party trick anymore. Like, how do you know this shit? And as you said, like teachers and just older people were starting to catch on, and but thankfully we moved around a lot, so I wasn't like stuck in one area where if they started talking, it didn't get too far. I just became the mysterious kid in another area, another school, another state. So I resonate with that part of your story at least. So
yeah.
yeah,
I think that makes a difference when you move around
yeah,
because you don't, it's not, things can, a
yes,
different environment and new people
yep,
can stop the questions from
yeah,
from the old school.
right. Yeah, because of course in the moment it's hard and it sucks, but looking back, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. So grateful. Because again, we moved not only just different like cities, we left states. So like I just got to reinvent myself many times at a very young age. It was a blessing in disguise for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what was the moment when you fully embraced your mission? Was there like a turning point where you realized that you were here to help humanity in this way?
Yeah, it was much later on actually. It was in, I think, 2010 or 2011. I was doing shamanic training in Ireland
Okay.
with a shaman called Paul O'Halloran, who's Irish. And he was in Galway at the time. I was training with him, and we were having a weekend, and I trained with him for about 2 or 3 years, and we were having a weekend session where we were doing ayahuasca and a shamanic journey where I had left my body again, and I went into the universe, and I could see the night sky and the stars and the planets and suns and moons and just the planets. I was in the universe traveling, and
Yeah.
I was with my guide that I call Many Moons.
Ooh, I love that.
Um, yeah, it's um he's yeah, I have a very strong connection to him, and um that was established years before that. Actually, when I was a child, I used to have memories of having a lifetime in um Native America, which is where I connected with him in this lifetime. But
Okay.
I was also with him in that lifetime.
Beautiful.
Um, and so in this shamanic journey, I was with him, and I was up looking within at the universe, and I was and I was also with the Pleiadians, and they showed me and him many moons. They showed me my mission, my journey, why I was here, and again, it was a very profound experience for me where they that nothing nothing could shake that belief in that. It's not even a belief, it's a knowing.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they made it very clear what my mission and purpose and why I'm here. And a big chunk of that, a big part of my mission is to channel the Pleiadians, and get their message out. That's a big part of my mission.
Mm.
Um, and yeah.
So for those who like don't know, let's break down like what would you say or how would you explain the Pleiadians to those who may have no idea?
Yeah. You're asking really great questions, Kenneth.
Thank
Really
you.
good.
Thanks.
Um, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I like to keep things simple.
Yes.
Um, I when people don't know and ask me who are the Pleiadians, I always describe them simply as being similar to angels, but they're similar to they're light beings that are similar to angels, but they're not.
Mhm.
They're an ET or an extraterrestrial or Star Nation race of light beings. But that's normally what I say to people. That's kind of a
Okay.
box standard answer
Right. Yeah, because
I
it's
give.
always hard to bring all those the quantum cosmic things into a 3D module so people can digest it. But it's yeah, I just love hearing how people explain. And that was good. I like that. How what point in your journey was it after the ayahuasca? When did you like connect the dots that wait, these are the Pleiadians? How like when did that happen?
That actually happened before because my journey's a bit back to front because of all the lost memories.
Mm,
So it was, I had already so I started to channel them consciously. I think it was 2009 or 2010, where they showed up. Um, and I was actually sent an email by a guy at the time that I just thought was a bit crazy. Um, and I was sent an email, and I had never heard of him before. Um, and I was living in rural Ireland in Lewisburg, and I had just left a man I was married to. I wouldn't even call him my husband these days, but because it wasn't like that.
yeah.
Um, it wasn't a traditional marriage in that sense, but he was Tibetan. He had been a monk.
Oh,
He grew up in Tibet, and it was a very bad marriage. And I was very, very depressed, very unhappy. And I started to write um, when I was in that marriage. And I would guess you could call it automatic writing.
mm,
But then I left him and I moved to Lewisburg, which is a rural place in Mayo. It's on the beach. I had a house on the beach. Not
ooh,
a very nice house, um, very run down, but it was huge and it was on the beach, literally.
yeah,
So it was beautiful in that sense that
I'm sure.
yeah, it was stunning.
Oh,
And the view from the window, there was a huge window that stretched in the lounge, and you could just see the whole ocean. It was just amazing, which is
wow.
why I took it.
Yeah.
Um, and it was there that I was sent. and this is rural in the middle of nowhere. It was a 20-minute walk to the local small shop.
Okay.
Um, and so I was sent an email by a guy saying that, hi, I was given your name by the Pleiadians and we should work together. And my initial reaction was, this guy's crazy. Like he's a bit loopy.
Yeah.
So I wrote back and I said, yeah, that's great. And thank you. And, but it turns out, and this is another major event that occurred in my life. And the guy's name was, so after he sent me this email, I had started, the Pleiadians actually turned up and Ashtar turned up behind me. And because I'd been doing the mediumship since I was a child for so long, Ashtar, I could see them very physically, and they turned up as if they were spirit. There was no difference really, except they had this etheric, luminescent energy about them that you wouldn't see with a normal spirit,
Yeah.
or at least I've never seen with a normal spirit. These were extraterrestrial. I guess is you know perfect word, but illuminescent beings. And Ashtar stood behind me, and then there were other beings the same as him, other Pleiadians behind him, and then going off to his left. Um, and then he turned up like that, surrounded in a blue type energy, blue aura, sparkling. And he said, hello, he actually said hi. He didn't say hello. He said, hi, my name's Ashtar, Commander. And so I had to Google it because I so much blocked memories, so many blocked
Yeah.
memories.
Yeah.
So, and that happened because of the email that this guy sent me, whose name is Joshua Shapiro, who is the Crystal Skull Explorer.
Okay.
So the events unfolded like that. And then jumping forward, 2010, 2011, I think it was about a year after I'd already started doing the shamanic courses. And then I was shown that image of my mission and
Okay.
purpose and why I'm here. And And then I began to have memories as well during those courses of having connected to them as a child. So
Mhm.
it's kind of strange how, like, my life has not been, I didn't start channeling them as a child. And then, well, I did, but I'd forgotten
Yep.
all of that.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten for so long.
Hmm.
Because the mind, I mean, the mind, you probably know you know yourself, Kenneth, the mind blocks out trauma
Yeah.
because it's a protective mechanism of the brain.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. I'm curious though, like then and now, how do you discern what's coming from them versus just your own intuition?
Experience,
Okay.
experience, and building relationship with them, relationship with spirit, or whether it's your granddad or the Pleiadians or Arcturians or Andromeda or Syrians or Lyrans, whoever it is, or spirit or animal spirit guides or even Jesus. It's a relationship is a relationship. It's built on trust and understanding and communication and energy and trust and even telepathy.
Hmm.
So there was one time where I'd been channeling for I guess maybe 2 or 3, 4 years. And I was deceived by a group of beings or a being. No, I'd say a group of beings. But I've learned through experience and through time and repetitiveness of knowing their energy and the way they show up and the way they work with me sometimes does change.
Mm.
Um, but it's building a relationship is it's very similar to any relationship, whether it's a physical or friend or in spirit. There's not I don't there's not much difference there.
Mhm.
So it's building trust and learning who they are and feeling their energy, um and that's definitely a familiarity that I feel now with them. But as I've gotten older, um they used to step in and step out, step in and step out all the time. But these days it's like they don't step out anymore. They're just constantly with me now. And I think that's the same for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, with the collective consciousness just finally getting to that frequency, they're able to just stick around longer, I feel like, or just we're able to perceive them easier, perhaps. Yeah, it's common. It's very common. What is the strongest message that they've been emphasizing lately? Because just with all the shifts happening on the planet, like, do they have like a message that just keeps coming right now?
Yeah. um just breathe, um, relax, take it day by day, because sometimes I do get very overwhelmed um, with the energies we're in. So breathe, relax, one day at a time, try not to do too much. And collectively, it's grounding is important. Um, Connecting in with the earth, walking on the earth, connecting in, really taking care of our bodies,
Yeah,
diet, nutrition, walking in nature, trying to go or going for swims in the
yeah,
sea, and really balancing the work-life ratio, balancing work-life, family, relationships, um, balancing everything, really, balancing money, balancing food and diet. Um, what else do they say? They have started to. Um, I've become very progressive in my channeling over the years, noticeably since 2019, um, and especially within the last 2 to 3 years, where the channeling has got very progressive. Um, Noticeably so, and so the messages that they share are always loving, always kind, always honest and direct, and some of the more specific messages. So that's kind of the feeling that they come in with, and always a
mhm,
tremendous amount of love.
yeah,
um, but some of the messages that they share are very specific about our history and science that we've been lied to on a mass scale, and they've gotten very specific with that with me, where they've recently, over the last year, they've shared so much information
mm,
about our past history, to do with Tartaria, to do with the giants, to do with the dinosaurs, to do with um all the hidden things beneath the earth, and the tunnels. A lot of this they did show me as a child. Um, but and then they also do the predictive stuff as well, where they predict certain events, or and they mostly do that regarding weather. They did predict Hurricane Helena. They predicted
mhm.
that it literally 1, 2 or 3 weeks before it happened.
Wow.
And then I was kind of um, in um, manically trying to get as onto as many interviews as I could to get out the information.
Mm,
Um, So I don't like it when they do that so much, because it's it can be hard to balance those energies.
Sure.
Because I was trying to warn people, and I'm very hard on myself. I'm my own worst enemy, really, in the
Yeah.
sense that I um I I don't want people to say, oh, and I'm sure they do all the time. Um, so I make sure that when they do predictions like that, that I record the time and date so that I'm accurate in what I'm saying is preceding this
Yeah.
event,
Yeah.
which is what happened. And and all thank you. And also they're reminding me now. Um, but that's what I mean when I say I've got progressive. So I could be like I'm talking, they're talking to me now.
Yeah.
So and years ago I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have,
Okay.
um, so in that sense, because when I first started to channel them in after the email from Joshua Shapiro, I would just be taking dictation and typing. Um,
Okay.
but there's no way I would have been able to have the confidence to do an interview or do a live channeling or anything like that,
Right.
because I was always a very shy child. Um, and there was something they were saying there. Oh yeah, thanks. So they were saying there that they had, I think it was a couple of weeks or a couple of months. I'm not sure, but it is recorded on my Saturday weekly channelings that I do every week at 7 p.m. on a Saturday. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not sure exactly, but it was predicted before the event. And it was actually a major event. It not, I mean, Helena was a major event, but
Yeah.
it wasn't a weather event. It was actually a landing in Florida where these that they predicted, which just I find the stuff they tell me is just fascinating,
Yeah.
because they predicted it before it happened, and it's recorded. Like you can go back to the recordings.
Yeah.
So there were ships that landed, and there were beings that were seen somewhere. It was in Florida. I think it was last year, and there were hundreds of police cars.
Oh, yeah.
It
Outside
was
the
that.
mall. Yep.
Yes, it was
Hmm.
that. They predicted that in a channeling they did, where they said there would be a genuine landing in Florida.
Wow.
Um, and a couple of weeks later, it actually happened. And for me personally, I'm like if I take myself out of like when I'm channeling, I'm just relaying information.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the picture. But when I come back and I'm like I am now and I'm fully conscious, um, I find it fascinating that they would share things like that, especially predictions where
Hmm.
you can't like you couldn't make that stuff up.
No. No. That's so fascinating. Wow. So that being said, like many people are waking up like to their galactic origins. Do you believe we all have star origins, or are some souls more connected to these cosmic lineages than others?
I think there's a large group of us like you and me, and I definitely include you in this. I can see
Yeah.
it. You're shining. Um, and I have been told that a large group of us, probably, I'll take out the word probably, 144,000 of us are here. We don't come from Earth. Our energy is different. We're not from Earth. We
Yeah.
have something extra that doesn't fit in, that stands out, that is different, doesn't blend in, doesn't fit into the school system at all. Um, and often as children, we don't like well, I never liked the fact that I didn't fit in. I always wanted to be hide. I always wanted to hide,
Mm,
um, and I was always very noticed, not least by men, but also the teachers and the kids, and like everyone saw me, and I
right.
just wanted to hide in a wardrobe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so we're here en masse for a mission, a purpose to help assist humanity because we are different. We are the warriors of the light. We are here to make a difference as star seeds. Where we are different. We're energetically different, physically different sometimes.
Mhm.
I mean, when you look at people like what is her name? Mariana, or I forget her name now. I'm sorry, but she's a starseed that she's done an interview with another woman who I can't remember her name either.
I'm horrible with names. It's okay.
Yeah. Um, but she looks very Pleiadian.
Mm,
She,
yeah.
and she's got very big eyes and long, beautiful blonde hair. Mariana something.
Okay.
Um, um, And a lot of us are born remembering our past lives as well. A lot of the star seeds, they remember.
Yep.
They remember, and there's always this sense of wanting to go home and not really knowing where that is,
Yeah.
and a sense of not fitting in, of standing out, of being the black sheep, which really we're the white sheep and it's inverted.
Hmm.
And we're often born into dysfunctional families where there's a lot of trauma or abuse or poverty or even satanic. When Teal Swan was had a lot of
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, and then there's like I don't know why I keep bringing Greg Braden up. Maybe you should just go ahead and ask him.
Yeah, I'll take that as a sign. I will. So your book, because you wrote a book about the Pleiadian child, and it dives deep into your experiences. What led you to share in that form?
Thank you, Kenneth. Yeah, I started to automatic write when I was in the UK, married, and then and even as a child, they had told me I would write a book. And of course, I think I was 12 at the time. And I remember telling my brother, I'm going to write a book. So I went into my bedroom and started writing. um, and of course, I didn't that didn't continue. Like I stopped writing, probably within a couple of days or something of starting
Mm.
when I was 12.
Right, right.
But I hadn't realized when they said you're going to write a book that that was the first book they were talking of
Oh,
or
wow.
speaking of, when the Pleiadian child. So I began to automatic write, and then I moved to Ireland, and then I was sent the email, and then I began to channel consciously. And I'd already started to write some of my childhood experiences. And I thought that's what the book would just be my um, childhood memories,
Hmm.
which was actually very hard to write because
Yeah.
I'd forgotten so much. I actually had to go back and sit and at the laptop, and as I was writing, I would be remembering in detail, second by second, of what I had to replay it
Yep.
in my mind and
Yeah.
then write it, which brought up a lot of emotion, and it was very healing as well,
Hmm.
very healing. So that was great. And then I started to channel the Pleiadians around the same time. So that was included in the book. So
Okay.
there's three different sections in my book, The Pleiadian
Okay.
Child, which is by Carol Ann Noonan, which is my birth name. And it wasn't until later on that I was given the name Soma ARah. So that is my first book. And then my second book is more recent. It's called What's Really Going On? pandemic. And that is banned on YouTube. Sorry,
I'm
banned
sure.
on Amazon. Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. And that's available on my website, which is somaarah.love. And I think it's €3 77 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll put all the links in the description for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, and what do you hope that readers take away from reading these books?
I hope they take away the awareness. I hope it brings them awareness to realize that they are much more than they've been told that
Mm,
they are. In spite of the abuse I had, I was very blessed as a child to have the experiences I had that, and it was those experiences that got me through the trauma. Many people are traumatized as children and don't have the experiences or the connection to spirit that I had. And
yeah.
that's what kept me here. So
Mm,
I have so much more admiration for people that have gone through difficult childhoods because they've done it alone.
yeah.
I didn't do it alone. I had huge help from spirit and my guides and the Pleiadians.
Yeah.
Had it not been for those, I don't like. Had it not been for the experience with Jesus, like I wouldn't be here. I
Yeah.
really would not be here.
Mm,
So I have so much more admiration for, because I always feel that those people that have gone through the trauma that they did without spirit are so much stronger than me, actually. I really believe that.
okay.
Um, because I had so much help and support as a child. So I I would I guess what I'm saying is I really admire those people. Um, their journey has been much more difficult than mine, for sure. And they're stronger
Mm,
because they didn't have that help and support that I did. So I
right.
was very blessed. And I guess I would like to say that step into a higher frequency of love and wake up to who you are. Meditation is the key. It really is. I started so young meditating.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wake up to your divinity. You are God's source, having a physical experience in a physical body.
Yeah.
You are God's source, you know?
Yes. Yes, I love it. Love it. So you talk a lot about New Earth. Let's talk a little bit about that before we wrap up, because it's just we have to. What is New Earth to you?
It's a new evolution, it's a new era, it's a new humanity, it's a new earth, it's a new beginning, it's a process, a stepping into an evolutionary period that we've never seen before on
Mm,
earth, not in the way it's happening.
yeah.
So it's a level of, it's an evolutionary period that is raising our consciousness, raising our frequency in order for us to, and to help us to create a new earth. And the awakening of humanity is not limited to earth. It is affects everything in the universe. The earth is not a separate object or planet that it has no effect on anything else around it. It
Yeah.
affects everything in the universe. So the suns, the stars, the moons, the planets, the Pleiadian star system, everything. Um, everything is evolving. Consciousness itself is expanding and on an evolutionary cycle or process. Um, and this is sometimes known as the 20, is it 25,000 years or 26,000 years? But there's a time, there's periods of time when we go through different evolutionary stages, and this is just the next stage for us.
Mm,
And our bodies are physically changing. We are physically Our DNA is changing as well. Our
Yeah.
blood, our skin, our hair, our teeth. We're physically we are changing, and we've got a long way to go before we become crystalline human beings. But that is where we're going, I believe.
Yeah. I love that answer. So I was going to ask if you see it as more of a physical transformation or consciousness or both, but it sounds like you think it's a mixture of both.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, well, um, I would say that our consciousness has already started to shift
Mm.
and change and move forward, and we're more aware than we've ever been
Yeah.
um, in our lifetime. Anyway, we there's many people waking up, and we can see the divide becoming wider and wider,
Yeah.
and um, it's we're on the different opposite end of the spectrum. So we're at one end and we're speaking this language, and it is very similar. They often reference it to speaking a different language, and the two just can't understand each other because they're speaking a different energetic language. They're
Yeah.
not on the same frequency. They
Right.
don't understand what you're talking about
Hmm.
because they're operating on a different frequency, a different awareness. They don't understand
Mm.
through no fault of their own.
Right. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love that one. What role do you see starseeds in this evolution? Like the role of starseeds in this evolution?
Um, crucial, crucial.
Yeah.
We are here to assist in a physical way. We are the Pleiadians. We are the Syrians in human form. We are hybrids. We,
Yes.
we are. We
Yeah.
are hybrids. We are able to withstand many negative attacks that most normal people wouldn't be able to,
Mm.
whether they are through being abused or technology being used by some of the three-letter agencies such as voice to skull technologies,
Yep.
which are very real.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so our bodies are uh, our energy is stronger. We've been training for thousands of years, from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime for this time now.
Mm.
And we are different, and we are here to assist humanity in this waking up process of
Mm.
ascension and consciousness evolving. And Atlantis actually has, they were talking about this yesterday. They've been talking about it for the last couple of years, the reversal, what they call to me the reversal of Atlantis, which is a parallel timeline to now.
Oh yeah.
Except at Atlantis, we stopped and we didn't evolve. We allowed the negative agenda to overtake us.
Yep.
And so we devolved. And now we are going into, now we get to evolve. Now we choose to evolve. And the Pleiadians have said very clearly that they will not allow us to not ascend because they won't allow it. Neither will the Syrians or the Lyrans or any other positive ET species. They
Hmm.
won't allow it because it affects everything within the universe. It
Yep.
affects them.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. So would you say that there's specific missions that different starseed groups have?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And they've even gone so far as to show me different levels of star seeds. So
Mm.
we're all star seeds, but we are all at different levels. So there's some older star seeds, some younger star seeds, some have different missions, some have used different tools. So some would be more into writing and art, some would be more into um, doing interviews and podcasts, some would be more into healing water, some would be more
Mm.
healers.
Yep.
And then they've also said that they will be um, this year they will be um, downloading and transmitting through me and probably others specific DNA codes that have been placed into star seeds that are specific codes that have been put into star seeds
Yeah.
in groups. So these DNA codes are they've spoken about one of them so far, not in a huge detail, but they did say in one channeling that the there's a code for that they placed into the star seeds to assist us in this lifetime now, and these codes will be revealed through myself and others. I'm not going to be doing this alone.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the codes they were talking about is the code of grounding, where we are physically, this code has been put into our DNA, and it is all about grounding the higher energies through our bodies and into the earth in a very, very physical way.
Yeah.
So as we do this, it it grounds us as star seeds, which we always, most of us seem to struggle with.
Hmm.
Um, so we ground in the energy to the earth, but also it as we do that, the energy also rises up from the earth. So it's a two-way spiral. So it
Hmm.
goes up, and as it does that, it raises the frequency of um normal human beings on the planet. So
Yep.
that's important. And they've also said that we are as unique as our fingerprints. Um, we are as unique as our fingerprints. So
Yeah.
there's no even twins. So twins can be similar, but they have subtle differences.
For
So
sure.
none of us are um, the same.
Hmm.
None of us are the same, even twins.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
very interested in what they're going to say about the DNA starseed codes and
Yeah. Wow. That's also fascinating. I'm loving this. So we kind of touched a bit on signs of a star seed, but for someone who's listening who feels different or like they just don't quite belong, what are some signs that they might be a star seed?
being a black sheep, not fitting or being called a black sheep by their family.
Right.
And
Right.
that's been inverted. So they're normally the white sheep, and then the family is dysfunctional.
Yep.
And we're born into those families to bring a healing, to bring awareness to the family, to bring a different consciousness into that family lineage and to heal that family.
Yes.
That's an important aspect. Um, a sense of not belonging, a sense of wanting to go home, a sense of not fitting in, a sense of standing out, a sense of being noticed, um, being bullied. Um, yeah, those are some of the basic ones.
Yeah.
Having abilities that are not
Yeah.
normal, you
Right.
know, healing, telepathy, dreams, memories of um, having past lives, memories of being on a ship, whether it's happening in the dream time or it's happened in a previous lifetime, memories of um, living in different, even countries like Egypt, having a connection to Egypt,
Yeah.
memories of um, alien races, memories of being on ship, whether it's from the dream time or past life memories.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, seeing energy, telepathy, knowing things. All of these are, I would go so far as to say, all of these things are um, signs of being a starseed. So there are many categories that
Mhm.
actually, like psychic and medium and healer and Reiki Master, even shaman and telepathy, being able to see auras, all of those titles are actually a subcategory of being a starseed.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And what advice would you give to someone who identifies as a starseed but feels stuck or disconnected from their mission?
That is interesting because I just was given that information 2 days ago.
Oh, awesome.
Um, yeah, I did it on I think it was the Saturday night. What day are we today? Monday. So Saturday, I had an experience in my own life, and then they channeled that information on the Saturday, on that evening.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's interesting how things unfold
It really
sometimes.
is.
So they had said that um when we're feeling stuck as star seeds, it's not our stuff. We're stuck because it's an ancestral or generational trauma
Mhm.
or way of being. So for me, it would be issues around food to do with the famine and the Irish lineage, and also addiction issues as well in my family, and dysfunction and trauma and rape and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just using that as an example.
Right.
So because things get passed down from generation to generation to generation, and we now are the generation as starseeds to change that. So they were
Mhm.
saying the other day, when you feel stuck as a starseed, this is not normal people, but as a starseed, when starseeds are feeling stuck, which many of us are
Mhm.
in in the time we're in now, it's
Yeah.
not our stuff. It's because of the family, or the family, the generational ancestral. Um, Sometimes curses have been placed back, um, way back in the generation. So it's really, the stuckness is not our own energy because
Mhm.
we're not even from here. The
Okay.
stuckness is in that energy going back in the ancestral. That is where we need to look at.
Yeah.
And normally, when we are able to see something, whether it's a physical object or in the sense of a physical entity or a physical um, demon, because a lot of us do see demons, or it's a etheric, it's more of an etheric, or no, normally when we see something, it clears.
Mm.
So if you are, for example, if someone is getting attacked a lot and then they see the energy after a few days or a few weeks or a few months or even a few years, normally when you see that energy, it will clear and dissipate.
Yeah.
And the same is true for the ancestral energy or the
Mm.
generational energy, whether it's a curse. A lot of us a lot of us, our families have been cursed
Yeah.
by negative ET beings, which also is to do with the Catholic Church.
Yep. Yeah. I resonate with everything. I'm loving this. For those who have been through deep trauma but don't feel spiritually connected yet, what would you say to them?
Start loving yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
Start loving yourself. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you're spiritual or not. It makes no difference if you have been traumatized and are stuck with that and not feeling spiritual. The most spiritual thing you can do is, if you're in that place, is to start loving yourself,
Yeah.
really loving yourself. basic stuff is to start kissing a mirror, saying, I love you. I
Yeah.
love um Tara Love Perry actually does programs called I Love You Me.
Yes, I love her.
Yes.
Hmm.
Maybe if you're drawn to doing to if you resonate with her, then do her courses.
Okay.
But and love is a huge part of this process, hugely, because they've said love is a frequency. And if it is a frequency, it can be measured. If it can be measured, it can be created.
Mm.
So, and we haven't been taught that as
Oh,
children. We haven't learned that from our teachers, from our parents, because it wasn't known back in the day. Or if it was, if people did know, it was they were burned as witches.
yeah.
So love is a frequency. Even if you're at the height of a dark depression, that can be cleared. And normally, when people are depressed, it's a wave of depression that comes over them because it's not their energy. Or waves of depression come over people because it comes from the outside.
Yeah.
It's an energy that is not yours, that
Right.
is, yeah. So love is you can create love frequency within yourself through sound, through music, through healing, through being in communication with the Pleiadians. Um, and I've learned that Jesus was Pleiadian, which is why I had the both going on as a child. I had the
Mm.
Jesus connection and the Pleiadian connection because he was Pleiadian.
Fascinating.
Um, yeah, so love is the most powerful force in the universe. There's nothing stronger than it.
Yep.
Um, and it is a frequency that is measurable and you can create it. So if you're feeling down, start self-love. Start the simple things like kissing the mirror and looking into your own eyes and saying, I love you.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
love you.
Something I tell people is just even while you're brushing your teeth, just make that direct eye contact for the entire time and just say, I love you, you're beautiful. Just say all those cheesy affirmations and just watch the shift. Just watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had a whole section because you've had direct contact experience with like UFOs and ETs and all that. So maybe if you would bless us to come back again, we can delve deeper into that because I already am so grateful for the time that we've shared. I don't want to keep it for too much longer. But on the subject of ETs, a lot of people do fear an attack or something evil because of the way that social media and just theater and movies have portrayed it. What would you say to those who may be in fear of contact?
Oh, I would say that there is nothing to fear except fear. So there's different levels. But I would say that there's nothing to fear except fear itself.
Yeah, yeah,
Having said that, there for everything that exists in the universe, there is an opposite.
yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. The vast majority of people have positive experiences.
Hmm.
I think it's only the rare few that have negative experiences. Um,
Yeah. And I would say like the the more negative experiences, like the grays and all of that, a lot of people need to understand that like not all of those beings are who we're talking about. The star system origin people, those are like more, I'll say man-made beings. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that. Because again, I think it would be a great subject for you to come back and we can get more into that for sure.
yeah, I'd
Um,
love to.
because
Thank
do you
you.
think that we're moving more towards contact in our lifetime?
We've never lost contact.
I love that answer. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, we've never lost contact.
Yep.
What's happened is contact has always been there, but our connection and awareness has diminished, and now we're swinging back and becoming more aware.
Yeah.
The galactics have never gone anywhere. The star nations, the aliens, have never gone anywhere. They've always been there. It's just that we're taking off the glasses again.
Mm, yeah. I love that answer. That's the best. All right. You've walked a deeply spiritual path, but what about the human side? How do you balance cosmic awareness with being here now in the physical? I know it's a challenge for me.
Well, that's taken me a lifetime.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's a constant, every day, every moment practice.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's very difficult to so some of the experiences I had as a child, um, I I wouldn't speak. There was a number of years I was classed as being autistic. I wouldn't speak to people. I didn't want to talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard what they were saying. I understood, but I had no interest.
Yeah.
I was not interested at all, and so I was labeled as autistic, which I am. I know I am on the
Yeah.
autistic spectrum.
It's a large spectrum, a large, beautiful spectrum.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and it seems to fluctuate as well with me anyway. It
Yeah.
fluctuates, depending on my energy. But it's a lifelong learning because we are not from here. Our energy is different.
Mm.
And whether you're called autistic or even Down syndrome or ADHD or there's a number of different labels that
So
are
many. Yeah.
so many different labels.
Mhm.
And there's also different levels to those labels as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't speak as a child until I think I was about, I forget how old I was now, 7 maybe,
Oh,
or younger than that. At least 4 or 5 anyway. I wasn't interested in speaking to people.
yeah.
Um, I was too connected to the galactics. I think it took me a little bit longer. They say that babies are um it takes them maybe a year or something to fully become in their body.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it took me maybe a little bit longer because I kept leaving because of the abuse, so that didn't
Mm.
help.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a real balancing act. Um, and a very common characteristic of a starseed is not actually wanting to be here
Yeah.
in your body anyway.
Right.
So, that takes us out, and that creates um, a disbalance, an unbalance, an imbalance,
Yes.
say, where we don't want to be here. So what's the point? And so
Right.
therefore we unless in our bodies. So we have to kind of want to be here as well. And I think that is part of the balance that kicked in 2019, where we
Yeah.
did want to be. That really changed things for me,
Hmm.
where when COVID kicked off, really changed things. Because I then and now, although I've had kind of fluctuated since then, gone through phases of wanting to be here and not wanting to be here.
For sure.
But at the moment, I want to be here.
Yes.
But in 2019, um, before COVID, I didn't want to be here. And then when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm here for this.
Yes.
I'm not just having these spiritual experiences. They all actually mean something and have a reason for them because they've taught me different things. And now, because of this, I want to be here, and
Yeah.
I want to bring forth the information that's been shared with me since I was a child,
Hmm.
And I'll leave you with a funny story.
Oh,
Well,
please.
it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Um, so as a child, they told me a lot of things, um, and they showed me a lot about Egypt and even Rome as well. And um, they showed me that dinosaurs walked at the same time as man. I was very young when they showed me that, and of course I never told anyone. Um, but they had shown me that when I was very young, and I actually turned to them and said, "That is not true." And it's the only time I've ever said to them, "That is not true," because I didn't believe it, because it wasn't. I didn't believe it when they told me, but now there's proof of dinosaurs having walked with man.
Yep.
There's a lot of proof
Oh, yeah.
um, from different sources, different people,
Mhm.
different evidence.
Yep.
So that's kind of it's not that funny, but that's kind of my funny story.
No, I enjoyed it. Thank you. Because I've had similar downloads, or because I'm a very or claircognizant type of a being. So like I same at a young age, I was like, why do I know this? It almost got frustrating, and I got used to get mad. So like I don't want to know this shit anymore. Can I just be normal? But thank the heavens that never happened. So
Yeah, thank God.
yeah, I know. All right, this has been such an amazing, expansive conversation. But before we wrap up, what is one key message that you would like the viewers and listeners to take away?
Love wins.
Mm, I love that. That's perfect. That's perfect. All right, looking ahead, what's next for you? Any new projects or books or workshops for us to keep an eye on?
Thank you for asking that, Kenneth, because I always forget to um, promote myself.
Right.
I kind of got used to it, but I used to hate it in the beginning. I wouldn't be doing it at all.
It's hard, yeah.
It is, yeah, because um, the yeah. Anyway, so there's a self-love that comes with that, that is that I haven't always had.
Yeah.
Um, so I've my work is progressive
Yep.
all the time. So I am now doing three different groups. Two have already started, and one is will start on the 1st of April. So I have a Saturday group where I at 7 p.m. Irish time, where I channel the Pleiadians,
Okay.
and there's also a Q&A and then a talk afterwards. And then the Sunday group, I've recently started to do, um, which is a very different energy actually. But I've recently started to do. It began as a workshop of 17 weeks, and we did week 4 yesterday.
Oh, wow.
But they've since said to continue it. Um, so I do a channeling on a Sunday as well, and it's a different energy.
Okay.
Um, and both groups are by donation.
Okay.
Originally, it wasn't like that, but both groups are now by donation. And then the third group starts on the 1st of April, which is a group for people who've signed up to my paid Substack, whether it's monthly, yearly, or founder.
Okay.
So that's more of a private group. And I have two books, and I have my Substack, which I'm promoting a lot lately,
Okay.
which I have lots of added goodies and benefits.
Awesome.
And I have books that are in the pipeline.
Yay.
Um, yeah.
Great.
And I've started channeling for some. magazines, one called Spiritual Emergence,
Oh,
um, that is, yeah, uh, light publishing, I think it is, like technology publishing, which is based in, I think, Arizona, or they used to be.
okay.
Um, so yeah, interesting times. And then of course I'm doing the interviews as well.
Hmm.
And I do readings and courses and workshops, and I do personal Pleiadian channeled readings, which I just love doing because they really, it's, I'm doing a channeling, but it's for the person. And
Hmm.
I really love doing those.
Yeah.
Um, but I do other readings. I do a regular reading, and then I do a starseed readings as well. And then a lot of the past life and stuff comes up as well. And of
Oh,
course, I'm also do Akashic record readings as well.
awesome. Amazing. You're amazing. And where can people find you, connect with you, and explore all your work?
So thank you, Kenneth. So my website is somaarah.love, and my Substack is Soma ARah. My Facebook is Soma ARah. I have Rumble, YouTube. Um, I'm trying to come away from YouTube because they're continuing their censorship.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm on Rumble,
Okay.
and but mostly Substack is where to find me.
Mhm.
I that is the only place you'll find all of my interviews and everything that I produce and publish and channel.
Okay.
Everywhere else is censored or shadow banned, or
I
most of
know.
them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, again, we'll put all the links in the description to make it easy for everyone. And then one last question that I ask at the end of these, just for fun, is if you had a superpower, what would it be and how would you use it to help humanity?
If I had one superpower, what would it be? It would be, if I had one superpower, it would be a flamethrower
Oh,
to, yeah, to,
okay.
to, and I've actually seen this device that was in use. But anyway, um, I would use a flamethrower to burn the black magic that has been placed on money.
Ooh, I
That's what I would do.
love that. That's a very unique answer. I love that. I love that so much. All right, awesome. Soma, this has been incredible. Your journey, your insights, and the wisdom you've shared today, it's just so powerful. So thank you for being here. Thank you for shining your light. And friends, if this conversation resonated with you, drop a comment, let us know what your biggest takeaway was. And if you're feeling the vibes, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, all that annoying stuff. But it helps keep these cosmic conversations flowing. And if you want to go deeper, check out Soma's work and her books. The links, again, are going to be in the description. And until next time, mwah, have an amazing everything. We will speak soon. And thank you, Soma.